The Republic of Moldova is the country most affected by the Russian aggression against Ukraine other than Ukraine itself. Moldova has welcomed about 1.5 million of Ukrainian refugees in a country of about 2.5 million, still welcoming about 115,000, which is about 4% of Moldova's population. And Moldova and Moldovans understand full well that Ukraine is defending us as much as they're defending themselves. And we remain committed to helping our Ukrainian friends and neighbors in this moment of need. And we'll continue to provide Ukrainian refugees access to healthcare, labor market, education, everything we can possibly provide. When it comes to building our own resilience, indeed, our capacities are modest, but we are encouraged by the support that we receive from the international community, from the United States, from our partners in the European Union. We just signed recently with the EU an agreement in the defense and security sector, a partnership. We have very strong ties in security and defense cooperation with the United States. And with NATO, we have 30 years of partnership for peace, cooperation that has allowed Moldovan institutions to build resilience, to allow us to be better positioned to withstand this avalanche of Russian hybrid tactics against the Republic of Moldova. One of the main avenues that the Russians are exploiting are our security vulnerabilities when it comes to cyber defenses, and we are working constantly with our partners in the EU, in the United States, to build those capabilities. And NATO has been instrumental throughout these years helping Moldova's security and defense sector grow, and this dialogue and this cooperation continues. And you know, the Republic of Moldova is firmly committed to being not just a security consumer, given our challenges with the Russian-backed separatist region in the Transnistrian region in the Republic of Moldova. But Moldova is also actively pursuing its role as security provider. For the past 10 years now, Moldova has been actively participating with its servicemen and women in the KFOR mission in Kosovo, in UNIFIL in Lebanon, in Somalia, in Bosnia, and we look forward to continuously growing our presence through various avenues in order to truly contribute to the international community. And our challenges remain severe, but thanks to the support of our friends and partners in the international community, and thanks to the commitment of our citizens, we are now stronger and more resilient than we were 2-3 years ago. The biggest achievement is in energy security. 3 years ago, it felt impossible to cut that umbilical cord that we were tied with Gazprom for 30 years. Now, the Republic of Moldova is no longer dependent on Gazprom for gas. We are buying it on the international market. And oddly enough, sometimes it's cheaper to buy American LNG than it is to buy gas from Russia based on the contract that they've imposed on us. And, you know, needless to say that the Russian gas contracts come with significant political strings attached. And we've suffered more than our fair share of this political blackmail when it comes to gas, but also to access to the Russian market when it comes to agricultural produce. Now we have diversified. We are firmly anchoring ourselves in Europe. And thanks to the support of our friends in the European Union, we are a candidate country now as of June 25th. This is an important step for the Republic of Moldova, and we look forward to exploring all these opportunities and capitalizing on these opportunities, because God knows the people of Moldova have waited far too long for this opportunity to return to the European family of nations, for which we've been ripped apart for no fault of our own in the Second World War. And thanks to the support of our friends in Europe, and thanks to the support of our friends in Europe and across the Atlantic, Moldova and Moldovans will continue to build their resilience, continue to be a trusted partner in the region, and continue to deliver peace and security and prosperity to our people.
And Deputy Prime Minister, let me go to you. So I was in Moldova earlier this year. If you haven't been to Moldova, I encourage everyone to visit. It's a pretty remarkable country. You're also in a very remarkable place. And one thing that was absolutely clear was for Moldova, a huge amount turns on what happens in Ukraine, and therefore NATO's continued support for Ukraine and its resistance against Russia's war of aggression. I mean, that's as plain as day when you get there. So one question is, what are the lessons that you think NATO is drawing rightly or wrongly from its experience supporting Ukraine? And then the other is, as a partner of NATO, if you had sort of a wish list of next things that you would like to see take place in your own partnership with the alliance, what would that look like?
Well, first and foremost, I could not agree more when it comes to the invitation to visit Moldova. That's a given. When it comes to NATO, Republic of Moldova, and Ukraine, well, of course, we want to see a lot more support for Ukraine, because support for Ukraine is also support for Moldova. And we are encouraged by what we heard the other day at the Mellon Auditorium with President Biden having this forceful message of reassuring Ukraine and providing support that is needed every single day. And we couldn't have had a more horrendous scene setter for this event here in Washington the day before it began with the barbaric Russian attack on the Children's Hospital. And for Moldovans, that is too close to home, because many Moldovan children before the war used to be treated at that hospital for cancer. So we have been used to some degree to the normalization of war in the past 2.5 years, but that was a bridge too far, even for the murderous regime in the Kremlin. It is. I have no words to share the horror that Kyiv residents and the whole of Ukraine is going through every single day. And NATO, of course, NATO members can and should do more, just like Ukraine is committed and every single day is proving with sacrifice and with courage on the front line that they are determined to protect their country, even though some discarded Ukraine. They were giving Ukrainians only 3 to 5 days. Well, we are the 3rd year into the war, and Ukraine is still standing strong. And as I said, we are encouraged by the decision of our friends and partners to continuously provide support, F-16s, long-range missiles. That is something that allows Ukraine to protect itself and protect, quite frankly, the whole eastern flank of NATO. When it comes to the Republic of Moldova, we've had a strong partnership with the alliance in the past 30 years. And I must say, for me, it's a bit personal. NATO was my first job. I worked for the NATO center in Moldova, and I see there in the back of the room a friend of mine with whom we worked together 15 years ago. One of the most memorable projects that NATO did in Moldova, apart from building resilience in defense and security sector, helping Moldova's Academy of Sciences with technical assistance, but one that is closest to my heart is a humanitarian project that NATO did in Moldova. We had pesticides scattered around the country, tons and tons of them, following the collapse of the Soviet Union. And unfortunately, we didn't have the resources to do away with those pesticides, and they were poisoning the soil and the underground water. And it was NATO taxpayer money, that funded a project that disposed all of those pesticides. And I wish more Moldovan citizens were aware, and we as a government are trying to break through this wall of propaganda that the Kremlin has built in the minds of many Moldovans, creating this boogeyman image out of NATO. But many are not aware of this, of the numerous humanitarian projects that we've benefited from, not to mention the building capacity in our army and the broader defense sector. So there is certainly room for improvement, but we are encouraged by the strong position that NATO members have taken when it comes to Ukraine. And of course, we are counting that this support will remain as steadfast as we've seen it. And we count that will be a game changer, the support that is coming now, because developments on the front line in Ukraine are also directly affecting the political situation and the political stability in the Republic of Moldova. And we've seen Russian proxies becoming more brazen lately. But we are confident that with this strong support for the long haul that the Euro-Atlantic community is showing for Ukraine, Ukraine will ultimately prevail, and peace and stability will return to our region. And we will no longer be in the situation of counting victims that have absolutely nothing to do with the war, including children that are suffering every single day. So we hope, and they say that hope is not a great strategy. Unfortunately, Moldova is more often than not is the only thing we have. And we count on our friends and partners in the Euro-Atlantic community to continuously standing there by Ukraine.
Can I just say one thing, Richard? I know, like, there's a lot of soaring stuff. This week also has its challenges. I will say, you go through a variety of meetings. I had the opportunity to meet the foreign minister. One of the most inspiring presentations, a true patriot, tremendously focused on reform and engaging with us. And so I must say I'm very pleased to hear you guys clapping for a wonderful representative who's striving to integrate this country into what we're all doing. So let's do one more, okay? And then.
Jackson Richmond with the Epoch Times. This is for the Moldovan foreign minister. So Moldova looks to join NATO. At the same time, Moldova is looking to join the EU. What's the latest on that? Which should we expect to see first, Moldova in NATO or Moldova in the EU? Thank you.
Well, first, let's remind ourselves of the Bucharest Summit of 2008 when Georgia and Ukraine really wanted to join and unfortunately didn't. And not because they didn't want to. The Republic of Moldova will most likely join the European Union first, but we count on Ukraine's progress when it comes to NATO. Unfortunately, in the Republic of Moldova, the post-Soviet inertia, but also the Russian propaganda in the past 30 years have inoculated this idea to many citizens that neutrality is a guarantee of security. And it may be for Switzerland, but in our neck of the woods, it's a questionable proposition. But unfortunately for many citizens, Russian propaganda has effectively in the past 30 years drilled that notion into many citizens. And let's be honest, it's a soothing idea for many citizens. You are neutral, you don't have to spend on defense, nobody's going to attack you, right? Nobody ever in history attacked a neutral country, right? Unfortunately, for many citizens, that message doesn't resonate enough. And it's up to the political leadership to talk to their citizens, and that is what we're trying to do, to have an open, public discussion about security vulnerabilities and about opportunities of addressing those vulnerabilities. And if you ask me personally, it doesn't take a PhD in security studies to know that NATO is the ultimate guarantee of security, not just in our region, but anywhere else in the world. But given our particular circumstances, it'll take some time until we are able, within a democratic process, to convince enough of our citizens that NATO is the real solution. In the meantime, we are firmly committed to our European integration path, and there is a security cooperation component there as well. And we're encouraged by the current discussions in Brussels of boosting the security cooperation in Europe, and you would believe that it's high time for that to happen. And we want to be part of those discussions, of the logistics lines that are being built now. So European Union accession is a priority, but our cooperation with NATO is very important. And I totally agree that it is good to have everybody at the same table, because as they say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And we don't want to be on the menu.